You all right, Ange?
I'm good, bud.
How are we looking, team news?
We're looking...
not me.
No, we're looking at good. Okay, so nothing sort of from the weekend in terms of injuries. Everyone sort of pulled up really well and no issues there. And obviously, apart from the injuries, the obvious absences are Romero and Spence and Reguilon, who are training today, but obviously for different reasons are ineligible.
It was rare for Spurs last season. You obviously joined the club with them, not in Europe. How much are you looking forward to? Spurs have a real good, big relationship with European football. Won this competition twice.
Yeah, no, really sort of pleased to be back there, excited about being back in it. I spoke about it last year that, it was a real gap in our sort of calendar, and I think didn't help us at certain times of the year not having that sort of regular football and that challenge of, playing against different types of opposition and sort of, exposing our whole squad to some, real meaningful game time. So for a number of reasons, and the worst thing was sitting around watching other teams playing it. That didn't sit well with me either. So being back in European competition is important.
I know you have touched on it, but Son was really passionate then. I know you mentioned it in the fans forum, but it is an expanded competition. Son particularly mentioned about the player welfare and maybe the dip in quality. Do you echo what Son and other players, Rodri, Alisson, have been saying about this extended format of these competitions?
Well, not specifically to this competition, but I've spoken already about the fact that I think we're getting to a real sort of dangerous level of what our expectations are around players. And instead of sort of focusing on one or two tournaments, it's about the calendar. That's more of an issue. Players don't get a break between seasons anymore that they used to. There's more tournaments, both at international and at club level, at continental level. So, like I said, it's going to get to a point where, we're not going to have the best players out there playing, and more, probably even worse, is, them breaking down for various reasons. So it's definitely something that needs to be addressed.
Done.
On that, Ange, you said last night that players will take matters into their own hands if things don't change. I mean, what does that look like? Is that a strike?
I said players may take that. I didn't say they will. I said they may take matters into their own hands, and it's about us, I guess. They're the ones most affected, to be honest. So, you'd understand if they start, as a collective thinking about, well, how much of this are we going to sort of continually, not have a say in? And it's like anything else in life, I guess. If you're affected, and it is the players that are affected, we have a responsibility as clubs, as managers as well, to make sure that we protect our players from that as well. So it's a reason we have squads. So, we've got to be mindful of, we can't on the one hand sort of bemoan the fact that, we have so many games, but we want to be in all competitions. And at the same time, we don't use our squads because I think, we end up being complicit in that.
Can I ask you a tactical question? We saw Arsenal come here and win without the ball, or 36% possession, I think it was, and then do a kind of extreme version of that in the second half against Man City, albeit with 10 men. I guess 10, 15 years ago, there used to be more managers who were kind of winning big things without having the ball. That's changed. It now feels like you have to have possession to win. Do you think we could go back to a time where football kind of goes in a cycle towards an approach where you don't need to have the ball to kind of be competing at the very highest level?
I think football's always gone in those cycles. I mean, I think there's always been sort of dominant teams who are more sort of, possession heavy, and other times where it's been teams that, as you said, require less of the ball. I think in football there's always that kind of counterbalance of what can be successful in any given time. A lot of that comes down to, I think, the strength of teams that execute that. If you get sort of the best teams who have a period of domination playing a certain way, it invariably means that others try and sort of follow that method, and if it's the flip side, then it goes the other way. So I've always felt there's always been, a kind of cycle that football kind of goes through, where, certain kind of, tactical play, ends up dominating for a period of time till somebody comes along and comes up with something different and then sort of changes things.
People seem to be congratulating Arsenal on not having a soft underbelly and developing their way of playing with a dark arts. I was at Mikel Arteta's press conference yesterday. Your team played good at entertaining football. That's how you're going to win a trophy, be it this season or whenever. How come you don't have to use the dark arts in inverted commas?
You're making it sound as if it's good versus evil, like, Batman versus whoever. I don't know my superheroes that well. Look, I think it's all part of the game, and it's always existed. It's just, I've never, look, I've said before, I don't believe in the dark arts. I don't know how to do it. It's just not in my makeup, but I've seen it be very effective, and a very effective tool. And my kind of thing has always been, well, if teams are going to go down that way, we've got to be even more disciplined to make sure we don't get distracted by that. And because, ultimately, I guess the role of every manager, every team is to try and, unsettle an opposition one way or another, and some do it by, trying to disrupt and sort of curtail any sort of momentum from the opposition. Others want the momentum. They want to have the dominance. So it just depends which side of the coin you fall down. But, the reason I do what I do is because that's the space I'm comfortable in. I know how to do that. For me to sort of change my approach would mean to me sort of delving into an area that I don't really, sort of have a lot of emphasis in the way I coach or the way I talk.
And finally, on this competition, it's changed since you were last in it because it's not home and away anymore. Teams don't drop down from the Champions League anymore. And Spurs are among the favourites to win it. How do you see that, and how do you see the new competition?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Obviously, early stages. It'll be interesting to see how it develops. I think I said before, just a gut feeling that there's probably going to be more in games. Usually in the group stage, after about the second, probably the third game, you kind of knew who was going through, so there may be some dead rubbers in there. But I think all games will be meaningful because all teams will have something to play for, and it's not that sort of standard home and away. So you're going to play, 8 different teams, 8 different styles of football. So look, it's an interesting challenge. I guess at the end of it, we'll see whether it's kind of had the effect that everyone wants it to have by being a little bit more, I guess, exciting and all the way through rather than sort of just a knockout phase. But most important thing for us is we're in it. So because we're in it, we've got a chance.
Azerbaijani news agency. You've probably watched Qarabag's recent games. Which player in Azerbaijani champion squad are you more concerned about?
Look, we've had a very good look at them. We had somebody fly out there on the weekend, watch them play, and they're a very good team. They dominate the local competition, but just as importantly, in Europe, have always made an impact. We had a good look at their 2 games against Leverkusen last year. They did very well. They pushed Leverkusen all the way, and we know how dominant Leverkusen were last year. It's not so much about the individual threats, it's about understanding that, we've got to make sure we reach the level of performance we do tomorrow night against a very good, experienced European opponent. I think experience in Europe counts, and Qarabag have been there consistently, whether it's Champions League or Europa League, and like I said, have always made an impact, so we've got to be ready for that tomorrow.
English press reports that Tottenham will play attacking football towards Qarabag. Is that true, or will you be opting for a more cautious approach?
No, well, the English never believe the English press. Don't make that mistake. We'll just play our football. We like to play a certain way, and I think Europe gives us another challenge because, as I said, European football, you're meeting teams that probably play a little bit differently, and sometimes, obviously tomorrow it's at home, but sometimes in conditions that you don't usually face up to, and I think it'll help us develop as a team by facing some different types of opposition, but ultimately it's about sort of playing our football, being as aggressive as we can with everything we do, and hopefully overcoming the challenge that Qarabag will have tomorrow.
Hi, Ange. Can I just
Sorry,
Can I just ask about Maddison? It seems he's playing in a slightly different role this season, seeing him a bit deeper on Saturday, a bit more out on the left. Can you just sort of talk a little bit about what you're seeing from him that you wanted to get more out of from him, and how that kind of fits into the team?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say he's changed his role. He's doing exactly the same as last year. I think if you look back early last year, very similar kind of. And I've said all along that the key to matters is, if he's physically good and now he's, getting to that level of where, he's able to cover ground, to receive the ball wherever we need him to receive, whether that's deep, wide, but then the ability to really, beat players on the dribble and then contribute to attacking play, not just sort of one phase of play. He's getting involved in 2-3 phases of play, and to do that physically, it's really important for matters. And like I said, if you look back early last year, he was doing very similar things for us that he did on the weekend. It was only when he came back from injury he kind of struggled, because I don't think physically he was where he needed to be. He's had a good, strong pre-season, and I can just sense every game he's feeling better and better about how he's feeling, and when he does that, I think he's able then to play, in the role we need him to.
Last season, obviously, you had that really awful period of injuries, and I remember you saying that you kind of wanted to look into that at the end of the season and to maybe adjust the training a bit or whatever. I just wonder if you kind of have done anything differently this season with this kind of big period now coming up.
Yeah, no, we're constantly reviewing. We've made changes, obviously, both in sports science and the medical department, and I think we've kind of evolved the squad to get players who we believe are going to be robust enough to play our kind of football, and part of that process, as I said, is the ability to then rotate and not sort of overburden too many players, within the squad. I mean, you've already seen that, the significant injuries to other teams already, and I think it's, we've spoken about, the calendar the players are having to bear, and part of our process is to hopefully have a robust enough squad to cope with everything, but also utilise that squad in the right way so that we minimise kind of the injuries that hopefully we can control. Some injuries you can't control, but in terms of our approach, we're still training as hard as we did last year. We're trying to play the same football. Our physical numbers are, as good, if not stronger, than they were last year in games, which is our barometer. It's just that, like I said, we've hopefully got a more robust squad, and our processes to recovery and the way we're looking after players is a little bit different.
David, please.
Hi, Ange. Many teams in the past have used this competition to rotate players, to give a chance to players who maybe hadn't played that much in the Premier League, in this case. I'm not asking you if you're going to rotate too much tomorrow, but do you think with the change the competition has made, this will still be possible?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as I said, we've got a squad of players that, we've gone into the season thinking that we're going to potentially, hopefully play 50 plus games in a year, and you're not going to expect, hardly any players to play in all those 50 games. And if you can get sort of 30, 35 games out of everybody. So, your European games, your cup games are an opportunity for us to develop, players and get them ready. What you don't want to do is make too many changes every game. We did that obviously against Coventry because, we needed to, but that tends to disrupt. But this early part of the season, I think it is important that we give some game time to guys so that when we need to make changes, and we will need to, it's not bringing in players who haven't played for 6 or 8 weeks. They played 2 weeks ago. So, if we make changes tomorrow night, the guys coming in played against Coventry a week ago. It's not like they haven't played for 4 or 5 weeks. So I still think that, you have that opportunity in the Europa.
This is a chance for you to win a trophy. Do you have like a preference, like the Premier League is our main competition, Europa League is second?
No, we want to win everything, mate, so no preference.
Okay, we'll finish with Matt down here, please.
Cheers. Hello, Ange.
Hey, mate.
Can you expand a little bit, please, on what it means to be in Europe, why it matters, both for the club? Is it about prestige? Is it about money? Is it about everything? But also for yourself, a challenge that you've taken on coming to Spurs.
Yeah, look, I tend to look at it more from a sort of my role, sort of from a footballing perspective. Whether I don't know, in terms of revenue, I guess it helps the club. In terms of prestige, it helps the club. But just from a footballing perspective, like I said, it's a different challenge from what you face in the Premier League, even in cup competitions for the most part. And I think whenever you can expose, individuals or a group to different environments, different challenges, I think there's greater opportunity for growth. And whether it's playing against an opponent you've never played before, or player who played differently, or playing in a country or in a stadium with a different kind of atmosphere, all those kind of things are opportunities for growth. And I think that's what European competition enables you to do. I think for us, I kept saying last year, I think if we had been in Europe, irrespective of the competition, I think we would have been able to evolve a little bit quicker in terms of our, what we expose our players to. But having sort of European competition, especially with a young group we've got, a lot of them, it'll be their first time playing in this competition as a group. It's the first time for us to play in Europe. The squad's changed a lot in the last 12 months. So I think for all those reasons, I just see it as a fantastic opportunity to evolve for us as a team in a footballing sense, that hopefully gets us closer to our goal.
And in terms of winning a competition, it feels like, because you no longer get the dropouts from the Champions League, you know who's in it at the start, you know what you're up against. Does that feel like it's something that's, I don't know if it's easier to target, but something that's more conceivable to target?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think whenever you're in a sort of this kind of competition, you never look kind of beyond, well, what's the first part of it is getting out of the group, and then you kind of, it's only sort of in the knockout stage you start sort of looking at, okay, what are potential matchups, who's left, and so whether that was, last year teams dropping down or this year, I mean, I think we'll get a decent idea of where we sit on the table and likely outcomes after that. But I think it's only really in the knockout phase that you kind of focus on, okay, what sort of opposition do we have here? So I think the challenge is still the same. I don't think it makes it necessarily easier, because if somehow this is easier for us, I assume it's easier for all the other teams that are really strong in this competition as well. So I don't think that changes. It's just, like I said, it's a unique format. It's different. God knows how you look at that table in one screenshot, because it's about 37, 38, 36 teams, whatever it is. So you're trying to work out where everyone sits will be a challenge. But like I said, for us, what we do know is we've got 8 really good games and an opportunity to progress from there.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Sorry? No, it's all. Go for your life.
Good luck tomorrow.
Just